It's early, yeah. Ja, då är vi igång för dagens webbinar med vår partner Liongard. Kommer att lämna över med varm hand till vår kontakt John Fry och Sean Saylor. Så att, och hör av er, eller liksom, om ni har frågor under webbinariets gång här, så är det bara att hojta till, alternativt skriva i chatten, så fångar vi upp dem och försöker vi svara dem såklart. Nu släpper jag över till grabbarna på Lionguard. Take it away, boys.
All right, awesome.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Simon.
So I'm Sean Saylor, VP of Sales at Lionguard. Been here since we originally came to market. Been in the managed services space for quite a while now. I think it's 12, 13 years. And joined by John Fry, who is our channel account manager that works directly with GridHeart. And excited to be speaking to everybody today. I do want to encourage you to use the Q&A section of Zoom as well. If you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them in there or use the chat. The Q&A section makes it a little easier to make sure that we're staying on top of some things. But please feel free to ask away anything or pause if there's some clarification on some things language-wise, then Simon will certainly chime in to help with those things as well. So glad to see everybody on here today. And every day, you as an MSP, you're driving digital transformation through the technology that you sell. And you all have found a business model that works well for you, and you're generating revenue, and your business is successful, hopefully, right? If you're here listening with us today, then you're probably looking for some additional ways to generate more revenue streams and ways to grow your business. And you know that the more value that you deliver to your customers, the stickier those customers also become. And so the problem is that there's a ton of service providers in the world, and managed services actually helps you differentiate yourself from those other IT service providers that are out there. And managed services is what gives you that ability to provide additional services while delivering more value to your customers. And offering managed services doesn't have to be very complicated. You can get started by focusing on really easy to deliver services like cloud management of Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace. I'm pretty certain that in your part of the world, Microsoft 365 tends to be the most predominant model, as it is here in the United States as well. But you can also offer things like basic monitoring, managing internet domain and DNS records, TLS and SSL certs, and you also have the ability to provide backup and recovery services. But why do you want to add managed services to begin with? Well, first of all, it gives you increased financial stability. It allows you to have better sales forecasting and the flexibility to let revenue, the folks that are generating the revenue, focus on targeting and developing the most profitable longer term relationships rather than short term revenue, like the projects or just hardware reselling. Those are just quick pops, but it's that recurring revenue that's really powerful. And because managed services delivers a monthly recurring revenue, which results in higher company valuations, it really has a deep impact. Now, fortunately, I've also worked for a managed service provider that believed in that model before I came to the software side of the fence. I was actually on your side of the fence, and the service provider that I worked for was able to sell at a very high premium because of the level of managed recurring revenue. So I'm going to encourage you, if you plan an exit one day, you have to have some recurring revenue if you want to get some good valuation on your businesses. Now, Lionguard helps you guys offer those additional services much faster. And we're using automation to cut things like new customer onboarding times. Many times that takes about 20 to 40 hours to onboard a new customer, but you can cut that down when you have automation to just 4 hours on average or less in some cases. Plus, Lionguard also monitors your customers' environments and notifies you when there is something that needs your attention. And we use something we call actionable alerts. And those alerts translate into tickets into your PSAs like Datto Autotask, for instance. And this frees up your techs to focus on what matters the most rather than manually monitoring all those countless systems and customers that you're interacting with. And now Liongard also integrates with more than 70 different systems across the stack that your customers are already using. And those systems are things like Microsoft 365, Azure Active Directory, network monitoring solutions like Auvik and Datto RMM, Internet Domain and DNS, IT Glue, SonicWall. There's a whole plethora of different things that we have integrations with. And each system is inspected daily, ensuring that your documentation is always updated. You're able to detect changes in those systems and get alerted when there is something that needs your attention. Now, you want to avoid having all of the knowledge that you have from these systems in silos. Liongard, what it does is it democratizes that information, and it gives your level 1 techs the ability to solve issues quickly and frees up your level 3 techs where most of the knowledge is stuck in their head. You don't want that to be just stuck in 1 or 2 people's heads. You need your entire team to have the same data to effectively manage your customers, right? And it allows, you know, those level 1s to get the answers that they need really quickly, and it allows your level 3s to work on critical high revenue projects or more important things that are a better use of their time. Now, with just a few clicks, Liongard also gives you the ability to perform rapid assessments in a new prospective customers' environments. But because we're actually inspecting all of these systems for your customers daily, think of it as a daily assessment. We're always looking for things across the entire stack. So cloud, network infrastructure, applications, databases, your servers and workstations, and it helps you identify those opportunities for developing some of that new project work out there as well. Now, we also have, I want to make sure that you understand how Liongard's model works when it comes to using our solution for your customers. So we have 2 options when it comes to Liongard. So one is what we refer to as Lionguard Essentials, and it is a streamlined version of Lionguard Core, right? So I'm going to get to that in just a second, but it's designed for your lower tier managed customers. And what I mean by that, it's the customers that you're just managing Microsoft 365 for, but it also includes things like your internet domain and DNS, your TLS and SSL, and it also complements Microsoft 365 with something we call identity monitoring. So you can actually inspect up to 10 different systems for one customer. So, you know, most of your customers are going to have just one Microsoft 365 tenant, but they may have multiple internet domains, multiple SSL certs associated with that domain. So we'll allow you several different inspections at a much lower price point. And it makes it easier to manage your customers and get alerts when things like your number of Microsoft 365 licenses or users in Microsoft 365, if those change, you'll have visibility into that. Well, what if there's a privileged user added to Microsoft 365? You'll also have that visibility. And because we're also giving you the ability to inspect your internet domain and DNS, that's a very powerful, fundamental way for you to really make an impact to your customers, because DNS records change and DNS configurations can be a nightmare, especially if there's anybody else involved in the mix, like a web developer makes a DNS record change.
It could hose a lot of things for you. And you also have the ability with our identity monitoring to see when your users have their identity stolen. So we're using a public breach database and can identify if any of that user's information is found on the dark web. Plain and simple, the reason I'm focusing a lot on the essentials is because it makes your tech's lives a lot easier as well. And you can also use essentials to be that gateway, that door in to offering additional services to your lower tier customers, but move them towards your higher tier managed services, okay? And because it's reasonably priced, you're gonna make a really great margin on these services as well. But if that customer needs additional services from you, with a flip of a switch, you can convert them over to our core, which is our flagship product, so Lionguard Core. And that is the product that's perfect for your mid or high tier managed services customers. And it delivers the full unified visibility, goes full circle, right, across all of your customer systems and their endpoints so that you can manage and monitor all of them. And what that does is it makes providing managed services much easier. Liongard becomes this extension of your team so that you can operate more effectively with the staff that you have. So one of the things that we're on a mission to do is help you guys get more output from your existing engineers, for instance. Everybody in this industry is fighting for good talent. And if you can allow your talent time, like all the mundane, boring tasks like documentation, right? And discovering what needs attention, if that can be automated, it's going to make the engineers that you're working with much more powerful. But both Liongard Essentials and also Lionguard Core, those include single sign-on, they include metrics, and they include months and months of history, reports, change detections, actionable alerts. All of the functionality of Liongard is available in both of those as well. So, you don't have to take my word for it, but take a look at, an example of one of the partners, right? So this is what you could be selling, right? And when you're doing stuff like this, so you could sell something like cloud monitoring and security, right? Your customers are already going to be using Microsoft 365. Why not sell an additional layer on there to ensure that Microsoft 365 meets your standards and doesn't stray from your standards? Because that is a very high target for malicious actors to do bad things with your customers, right? And you can offer something like that for as little as €3 a user, for instance, and it makes sure that you're capturing and tracking changes. Everything is configured to your security best practices, but you're going to be able to have full visibility into everything that's happening in not just one customer's tenants, but you can do that across all of your customers' tenants very easily as a cloud solution provider. So a CSP partner, right? All you have to do is configure Liongard at the CSP level, and it automatically discovers all of your tenants, and you can do this same thing. Think of having a complete audit of 365 every single day, and it's very powerful. Now, to simplify this a little bit, when I talk about how you could potentially offer this for your users, if you're selling Microsoft 365, right, and you're selling it for 12.5 euros per user, that's about 375 euros. But if you purchase Liongard and you're selling that for €3 per user, you can add an additional 90 euros on top of that, right? And look at the profit margin. This is the one thing that I want to make sure here is you see your margins are typically thin on Microsoft, it's always been that way for years. Let's, face the facts here. But look at the margin that you can make on a Liongard by adding that additional layer on there. And the beautiful thing about Liongard is it's a fixed fee per customer environment. And so the larger customer you land, the greater that margin increases. And it's all about profitability, right? So not only are you going to be able to capitalize on the top line revenue, you're going to be more operationally efficient, which is going to drive up your profitability even faster. So remember the name of the game. It's that recurring revenue, the profitability. That's what's driving your valuation. Now, John Fry, let me pause for a second. Are there any questions or anything else that you want to make sure that we cover at the moment?
We don't have any questions at the moment, but thanks for highlighting, the last couple slides in particular, essentials. The journey I've been on since March, understanding the Nordic market, certainly maturity levels of MSPs is starting to go up, but there are quite a few technology service providers that consider themselves more, cloud service providers. And initially, when they might have looked at Liongard, it could have been maybe a little bit overwhelming. So understanding that we have different paths you can go down depending upon what makes sense for you, especially if you're, licensing quite a bit of Microsoft, something like Essentials could make a lot of sense. And we can obviously get into conversation about that with Simon a little bit down the line. But yeah, thanks for highlighting that.
Yeah, so one thing that I would like to do is just run through a few different scenarios of where Liongard is going to give you visibility. So I've got a few things pulled up here, and now this is a sandbox environment with injected demonstration data, but if you will imagine, this is one of your customers. Well, Microsoft 365, that inspector is one of our most widely deployed inspectors globally. And what's nice about this is it does give you the visibility on our overview screen. It's going to have some summarized data about your Office 365 tenant, including the number of active users, the total number of licensed users, and you'll also see things like, is AD Connect enabled, and if so, when is the last time it's synced? Now, as you start to dive into some of these other details here, you'll see the licensing screen goes into greater detail. So I can see how many licenses of each type are actually assigned and active, right? Do I have any that have expired, right? Do I have any unused licenses? Like in this case here, I've got 10 Microsoft 365 E5 licenses, but only 7 of those are assigned. Well, guess what? I'm leaking money. And remember that margin that I was talking about earlier? It's going to take me months to recoup that unassigned license count. So you definitely want to make sure that you have some visibility in there, and you can see licenses by user, but then you can go into greater user detail in the individual tenant and see, are those users privileged or not, right? Do they have multi-factor authentication enabled? You can see how each user is licensed when it comes to all of the different types that are in there, and are they even active or not, right? So you may have a user at your customer that was terminated and they forgot to tell you, right? It happens. So you definitely want to get them out of there, but you've got roles, groups, mailboxes, Microsoft Secure Score information. So I want to pause for just a second here. A lot of managed service providers, unfortunately, just run with default configurations inside of their 365 tenant. But there's a lot of built-in security functionality that Microsoft delivers to you guys, but it's not enabled or turned on by default. So you want to make sure that you're using some of that security functionality to reduce your customers' risk and exposure. Reducing your customers' risk and exposure ultimately reduces your risk and exposure as the service provider as well. And if any of the tenants that you're supporting do not meet your standards or stray from your standards because somebody has misconfigured them or somebody turns off a certain type of functionality, you can be alerted in those cases. And you also can see, in some cases, your customers have more than one internet domain and DNS record associated with their Microsoft 365 tenant. So you'll see all that information. You'll also see the historical timeline. It goes back for 18 months.
But what you'll notice here is we're capturing and tracking changes. I've stopped on this one right here. You'll see that there's a delta, and if I go to my changes tab, I can see exactly what happened on that day. I can see that a new user was added. If somebody is deleted or removed, they'll have a red strike through in there. So I've got a full audit trail of everything that's happening in Microsoft 365. Now we're doing the same things. The reason I wanted to pull up a couple of these to remind myself to talk to you about this is because there are some complementary elements of Microsoft 365 for which Liongard has also built additional deeper inspections of. One of those would be Microsoft Teams. So you'll have full visibility into Teams. You'll see the user details in Teams. You'll see the different Teams channels, which applications are installed on those channels. All of those details are listed there, and all the historical information associated with that. You also have deeper visibility with Microsoft SharePoint as well. In Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and I'm getting into OneDrive, guess what? Those all use the same setup functionality. So when you set up Microsoft 365, you'll have, with just a few clicks of a button, visibility to easily inspect SharePoint and OneDrive, for instance. But even in our SharePoint inspector, you'll see a list and history of the sites. You'll see lists. You'll see the drives that are associated out there. All of that information, there's 18 columns of data where you're tracking all the historicals associated with it. Remember that when you're going to solve a problem for an end customer, 95% of that problem solving is finding what needs your attention. It's the data. Well, instead of having to log into 4 or 5 different places to get that data, you can go to one source that has that rich data. You don't have to go digging around, and you can find what you need in order to make the change that you need. And guess what? You guys go and correct or remediate an issue. You don't have to update your documentation because we're going to capture the changes that your team makes. We're going to capture the changes that your customer makes if they have administrative access to these systems, or if there's a third party involved, or worse, a malicious actor. You have full visibility into everything that's taking place in there. So all of these are complementary to the Microsoft 365 inspector. And I want to make sure that if you are a Lionguard partner, that you're utilizing these. But if you're not a Lionguard partner yet, then I want to encourage you to check these out. We definitely want to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to see this in action on your own respective customers' environments. You'll see drives, and this, I'm in OneDrive now. You'll see users, groups. You'll see the different drives that are out there. You'll see those permissions. Who has permission to access this data inside of OneDrive? So all of this is complementary to Microsoft 365. Now think about one of the powerful pieces that integrates to 365 that controls who can access it or who can access Microsoft Azure services. Well, that's Azure Active Directory, which is another very powerful inspector that you can utilize through Lionguard's core license and give you visibility into even deeper user details. Okay, so there's 23 columns of data that we're collecting in Microsoft Azure AD. You'll see groups, you'll see administrative roles, you'll see audit logs. I like to point this out because this is where you start to detect some of those anomalies, like where users are signing in from globally. This is where you can start to get in front of bad actors getting a hold of one of your 365 users' accounts and starting to wreak havoc for you. Okay, you'll have this history right at your fingertips when you're using Liongard to inspect things. And if any of you are dabbling or getting into Microsoft Intune, we're starting to see a very high uptick in folks using Intune to manage those endpoints, those Windows 10, Windows 11 machines that are out there. You're going to have that visibility with the Azure AD inspector, a list of those devices. All that information is in there as well. This is all part of the Liongard family and the list of inspectors. So definitely want to encourage you. If you have not done a full demonstration of Liongard, I want to encourage you guys to get with the GridHeart team to do that. And we'd be more than happy to engage and answer any questions that you might have as well. So with that, John, any questions or anything specific that we needed to address?
I don't see anything in the question box here, but I'm going to steal something from Joe Alapat, right? So when MSPs start to understand this, and really what did we focus on? We kind of just focus on the Microsoft side, at least today, right? So this is like the movie The Matrix. And you remember when Neo took the red pill and he just saw everything? That's basically what will happen when you start to deploy Lionguard and use it. And then you start looking at all the different other parts of your stack and how that relevant information, unified visibility, starts coming into Lionguard. It's quite powerful. That's what gets us excited every day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So one of the things that we're very big on is going very it's depth. So depth of data in a system, but breadth of systems, going very wide across all of the stacks. So cloud, network, on-premise apps and services, all the way down to the endpoint. And that's what you're going to get. That's the mission that we're on, is to give you that unified visibility for all of those systems that we have integrations to today. And guess what? We're not going to stop. We're at 70 different integrations today. It's actually a little bit more than that. But we are going to keep our foot on the pedal. We're going to keep building more integrations to those additional systems that you guys are using or running into inside of your customers' environments. And I want to encourage you, if you want to learn a little bit more about how we're doing this, you can also check out docs.lionguard.com. It's the encyclopedia of Lionguard. It has all of our inspector details. It's a great resource for you guys to see that. But really, what I do want to encourage you is seeing is believing. Get your hands on this product. It's priced in a powerful manner to make you an effective MSP. So it really should be a no-brainer. You cannot pay somebody to do what Lionguard does via automation. We want to make your team a more effective team, be a more effective, more profitable MSP. It is absolutely a game changer. So with that, that's all I wanted to make sure that we covered today. Simon, any closing remarks?
Not really. Nothing more to add from my side. The partners can reach out to me, and if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we can schedule demos, and yeah, I can send over information to you guys. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thanks for having us today. We appreciate the time. I think that's it. All right. Good to see everybody on here, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.